Hey guys, and welcome back to Donovan and Shelby Read. I'm Donovan.
I'm Shelby.
And in today's video, we are doing a book talk. We're super excited. We are really trying to fit our schedules or fit more book talks into our schedules so that our channel can become more centered around book talks, which is kind of what we like to do. We love to read and discuss books. So we have lots of fun book talks coming. Today's will be about The Lost Village by Camilla Sten. This book came out in 2019. It just recently got translated from Swedish to English by Alexandra Fleming. It is set in Sweden. On Goodreads, it says it's the Blair Witch Project meets Project. Help me! You gotta help me if I'm forgetting.
Well, what am I supposed to say? Project?
The Blair Witch Project.
Blair Witch Project meets Project. Let me try that again.
Meets Midsummer. Both of those are horror. One I feel like is a highly acclaimed indie horror movie, Midsummer, and the Blair Witch Project. Everyone knows the Blair Witch Project. I've only seen the latter, Midsummer. I have not seen the Blair Witch Project. Have you ever seen that? I think
it's one of those found footage or something.
Yes, it was, and it started. The found footage is literally my favorite horror.
What?
One of my favorite. I love it, even though most of them are very bad.
Did you love Creep? That one that I was like.
Yes, about the guy.
He invited him into his home and the bear suit and everything.
Okay, before we dive in, just want to let you know on our book talks we do non-spoiler and then we jump into the spoiler. So for the first couple of minutes or so, we will be doing the non-spoiler rundown of our thoughts, and then we'll get. So if you have not read this book yet, that's absolutely fine. We will not spoil you, but you will get our rating at the beginning. In The Lost Village, we are following our main character, Alice. Now, this is a Swedish translation, so there's a lot of words that we probably will not say as eloquently as we would like.
I was like, okay, you already gave me permission to help. Eloquent.
Yeah, eloquently as we would like. Our main character, Alice, is obsessed with this village where in the 1950s 900 of the residents went missing overnight, just up and left, no trace of them. Her connection to this is that her grandmother, who had moved away from the village, her sister, her grandmother's basically entire family still lived in that village, and they were lost with everyone else. She wants to make this documentary about the village, and she's kind of struggling. She's a struggling filmmaker at this moment, so she is putting everything into this documentary. This is the make it or break it for her financially, and in every other sense of the word, this is it for her. So she's going all in. And what's kind of cool about this book is you're getting perspectives from all around. We're not just following Alice, we're also following Alice's grandmother, Elsa. Yes, that's Alice's great grandmother.
Oh no.
Are you okay?
Yes. No, I was trying to put the names.
Yes, I wrote everything down because the names, they can get really, but I have a whole list right here so we can refer to
but I like that. And you also like that when the story is told from different letters or stuff like that. That was really cool.
That's my favorite. I'm always if it has different formats of writing or anything, it just keeps me really invested in the book, and interested. I'm definitely the type of person that I do get bored easily. This book, I feel while it wasn't fast-paced per se, it was definitely always had me wanting more, always wanted to go to the next chapter, what's going on. And another thing, and we'll get into this in the spoiler of what the author felt and what she talked about in terms of mental illness, because that plays a really big part of this book. And the author herself said she struggled from depression, and she wanted to really tell a tale of how society views women with mental illness then, now, And that really, it spoke to me. So I think I definitely gave this a little bit more of a heart, like on Goodreads, because just mental illness, anytime we can be open about it, and authors are open. I'm very open with my anxiety and my depression. But another thing is, this book is broken up into days. There's like 7 days. So we start on like a Monday, and then by, let's say, Sunday, the book is done. So, because that's all she has financed to be at this little town. It's like, that's all the money we have. 7 days worth. So like, you start with Monday, and then you're getting to something's coming.
That automatically adds it auto pastes the book, because you already know. You already know they don't have much time there because they don't have budget. Right off the bat, that adds doing that in your book, doing a countdown of days. I think that's just a classic.
It read very much like a horror movie. And if you read a lot of horror books, I think some of them, they read better as a book. And I can't see them being a movie. But this, to me, this had twists and turns that I feel like when I read horror, I don't expect some things to happen or authors to go there sometimes. And this, to me, was just like I was watching a horror movie, playing out.
I loved it.
This little town where everyone went missing is called Silverjarn, Sweden, and it was in the middle of nowhere. It was hard to get in, hard to get out. There's only a train that came twice a week. They're out, and there's no train anymore when Alice and her crew go. You cannot get out without a vehicle. So we have our main character, Alice, and we have this colleague of hers where there's a lot of tension between them. Her colleague's name is Emmy.
Yeah,
then we have Tone.
I was going to say a lot of bitterness.
A lot of bitter.
I got cut myself off because I was
God, he made me a lot of bitter. So then we have Tone. There's a lot of kind of spoilers. I can't go into detail fully of who these people are, but essentially this is the crew we have. Alice, Emmy, Tone, Robert, and Max. So these are the only people that are here helping making this documentary. None of them were super likable. None of these people were super likable, except for the ones in the past. Alice's grandmother, her name was Margareta, or Margareta, probably. I'm saying like Hispanic. Margareta. Her grandma loved her. She was a little detective. She passed away before she could solve this, and that also kind of churns Alice's desire. Love Margareta. Her mom, Elsa, we get a little taste of her. Love Elsa.
Loved her. Sassy housewife.
Which the author, I think, kind of wrote her like, she was more than what people wanted her to be. Like, you were supposed to be this good wife who listens to your husband, has dinner, stays in line, and when things start going awry or she was very strong. Like, when she saw something, she said something, which really went against a lot of the women in the town. Like, she was like ahead of her time, I think. People in the past, women in the past, I could have had that whole story just be about them. Wouldn't you have said, like, you would have raised the stars if it was more centered around those? Because those were very lovable characters.
Those were. The characters from the past were, they were better. And they were also, like, more complex characters.
Right, which is funny.
Especially Elsa. There were so many, we saw her barely any, and she had so many layers to her.
Exactly. So it's kind of funny, but were you scared? Was it scary to you?
I actually was scared. I'd say this book definitely does, like, paranormal teases. So those moments, I thought they were really, really cool. I love stuff like that in books.
I do too.
So I was scared in those moments.
Home Before Dark.
Oh my gosh.
Did you read that movie?
Yes.
Did you read
that movie? Home Before Dark, it was one of the scariest books I had read last year,
but honestly. But also, like, did you read The Whisper Man by Alex North?
No.
Okay. Put that on your list.
Is that the one where all the boys go missing?
Yes.
Yes, I think I did.
My point is, books that edge on, is it paranormal? Is it not? That is so fun.
I do not like when a book is hinting that something's paranormal and hinting that it's really scary, and then what it ends up being is like a traumatic friendship or something. And it's like, okay, that is like something that's real world scary and sad, but I wanted like there to be like a monster made of goo at the end.
When you're reading horror and thrillers, people cannot, and this is why when I'm describing why I liked a horror or why I didn't like a thriller or something, the twist is always going to be the biggest spoiler is always going to be, I didn't like this ghost story because it wasn't a ghost, but I can't tell you it wasn't a ghost. So it's like, that's where you have to draw the line. How do I tell you I hated it without spoiling it for you? What was your rating?
I gave it 4 stars. I loved this book. I loved everything about it except the characters. I did not like the characters.
I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, but it's like a 3.75. Like, it's like almost a 4 to me because I really enjoyed it. But
if the characters were more fleshed out, it would have been a 5 because I loved it so much. Sometimes I felt like the characters were getting in the way. I think the author tried to do, like, the horror of the past and then, like, what one of the main characters was going through in the present kind of simultaneously to make her point about, like, mental illness. And sometimes the main character's story was just not as strong. Like, I don't think it, like, lived up to the horror. And I almost, like, felt guilty because I'm like, I don't really care about what you're going through, which is really messed up. Maybe that's what the author was trying to say, but
I agree. I could empathize with Alice, but, like, having been there, but, like, you're right, I didn't necessarily care about her, you know, what she was going through. Not, you know, I was just like, okay, like, let's move it on. Let's keep it moving.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think for the non-spoiler, that's about all I have. I would recommend it if you watch those horror movies that are just purely guilty pleasures. I feel like towards the end, I kind of was piecing it together what's going on, but
I kept almost getting there.
Yeah, it left you.
I'm almost there.
It felt good. The ending was good. I did enjoy the ending. I think
in the spoiler section, I am going to reveal my ideal ending.
I can't wait. Let's get there. All right, guys. We are now going to jump into the spoiler part, and I'm excited. Shelby's about to rewrite the whole book. Let's get into it.
What's in your coffee? Why does it smell so good?
The creamer Daddy uses.
What? What kind of coffee beans do you use? Are they like hazelnut beans or something?
The little Keurig, it's H-E-B coffee, San Antonio.
Oh, okay.
I love San Antonio is like one of my favorite.
Yeah, I can smell like the nuttiness. It makes me want to make some coffee.
Go.
Let's just go on. Cause are we gonna eat?
Yes.
Well, where do you want to eat? Did you want to eat at Kobe? I forget what you said.
Oh my gosh.
You're the only person I can go with. Brandon hates it.
Yeah, Derek would never eat sushi. He said sushi? Who's she?
Oh my gosh. So, I sometimes think,
oh God,
you don't realize how closely I watched you when I was young. Did you or did you not have an alter ego named Alvin?
What?
One of the very first characters is Alvin.
I think you're right.
One of your like social medias or one of your Neopets accounts or something, you use Alvin.
I was Alvin. So weird.
My very first note of
was Alvin Tonica's alter ego. God, don't Google Alvin. I don't know.
Alvin was wilding on the internet.
Should we start with the characters? Just a rundown what we thought of them, or mental illness?
Well, I think we can start with characters because if we branch off from like, what's her name, Alice. If we branch, I was going to call her Julie. I did not like Alice.
My thing is, Alice, as someone who has had depression to the point where I was like, Alice, been there. I don't know. I don't think you would say she's being dramatic. I would hope not. That's very mean. But you might be like, just get up out of it, sis. But no, like, I'm telling you, when I was in the throes of depression, the light hurts you. The light physically hurt me. I could not eat. It was hard to sleep. I mean, it was like, it's like your whole body from the top of your head to your toes, it's fighting against you. Like, you are really struggling. And the author kind of points out how when you have a support system, financially you're able to get help, you are looked at differently. No one called me crazy. I had friends and family that were understanding and stood by my side. I think when I was getting the help I finally needed, I think you and Mama stayed the night, remember, at Grandma's?
Oh, yeah.
I had to have Shelby, my mom, stay the night with me as I was finally getting on, like, medication to help me. Like, I have been through it, and I got through it. You can get through it, but you have to know also, if you've never had anxiety and depression, you don't think you can. Like, it's like this thought, you're like, I'm never gonna get better, and you don't want to think that, but you just know it. It's not even a thought. It's like, I'm not gonna get better. It's bizarre. Your brain really is working against you.
That's something that the author said at the beginning. She said that now we know it's a treatable. Like, it is treatable. Like, there is hope, which Yeah.
It's hard when you're in there. But then the author said, okay, so you have someone like me who had family, friends, things to help me. You might have seen me in that moment and say, oh, this girl's just going through a rough time. Then you see maybe a homeless woman on the streets who is suffering from exactly what I was at the same time, and you look at her like, oh, she's crazy, or you view us differently just because one of us has help and one doesn't. So she was kind of like, you see that with Brigitte and Alice, you see how.
And Tone, like the difference between like Tone is medicated, and I do not know enough about what did Tone have? I don't know enough about Tone's specific mental illness to know but the night and day when she was off of her psychosis medicine, and I know that it was a lot of the characters were really, really scared of her, so it was like the characters making her seem like she was like the creature that was going bump in the night. That just made me so upset because I was like, I don't know. I'm sure that's what the author was trying to say. Look, she's being painted as a monster.
Look, at the beginning, she wanted to show how society views women suffering from mental illness. And I put, hi, Shelby, in my notes because one of your things you're always saying is, why all the books I read, why is the wife or the woman always have to have this crazy. The whole plot is she's crazy because of her mental illness.
Yeah, she's either crazy or she has a crazy mom. Either the woman in the book is crazy or all of the people's lives are ruined because their mom is crazy. And I'm just like, what is this recurring thing?
I mean, does it happen? Yeah. Women have to do everything. They have to work and clean and cook and caregive. When we go through something, it's tough. It's really tough because you can't have down days, Emmy, I don't know how I felt about Emmy, because
I actually, out of all four, by the end, Emmy was my favorite of the four. Well, first it was Max, and then he went crazy the last third.
And what happened with that?
So kind, so understanding.
Yeah.
He was probably the normalcy through the book.
If we could have looked back and been like, oh, at this moment, we should have seen it coming. There was nothing.
Yeah.
There was nothing.
Actually, at that point that he went absolutely psychopathic on her, I was like, was he the person? Was he the guy that people kept seeing?
The whole time I was thinking it was going to be...
The pastor was still alive?
I didn't know. No, I didn't think anyone was still alive. That was very surprising. I think I was like, I don't know who it could be. And then I was like, I think it's Max. It's gotta be Max. Who would be the most crazy? Because Max was such a good guy. I'm like, who would be the most... twist. But then exactly when he was freaking out, I was like, oh my gosh.
From the jump, she kind of, I think that she was hinting that Tone was Brigitte. There was just hints being thrown, and then I was like, yeah, Tone, especially when they was like, is Tone taking her medication? I was like, oh, Brigitte. And that's one thing that I pieced together from probably the beginning, but the one I did not was, I could have never known that Ina. Was it Ina?
Ina. Or we're going to say Ina. I'm not quite
sure. I would have never guessed that. But by probably page 200, I was like, the pastor's still alive.
Oh, the pastor.
Yeah, and I was like, he's still there. He's just been roaming the street.
Okay, so
that's who I thought it was.
When, at some points in the book, the pastor was saying something about we have to go into the dark to get out, whatever, I knew, oh, I bet where they go, it has to be the mine. But I was like, how did they disappear? I still was like, I don't quite understand.
Disappearance was, until it was revealed, I had no clue.
I didn't know where she was going to go with that.
I had one idea.
What?
And I think she put it as a red herring. Right when they're driving up, they're talking about what she found and she was like, yeah, and she was like, and that's a super deep lake that's never been searched. And I was like, oh, he got them all to walk into the lake or something. That was my only conclusion that I had.
That's good.
Robert was also, he was a sheepish little guy, but I did like him.
When Emmy was dead, I was so surprised.
Yeah.
When you realized she was choked, I was like, oh, and then that's where I was like, wait, Max and Robert were there. There's no way they could have. I was like, who was there? That's when it got scary to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, there is someone who?
Well, from the very beginning, I was thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't have read The Ford by Camilla Sten because it was saying that it was exploring the way women with mental illness are treated. Does that mean that the main character is an unreliable narrator? Does that mean that this could all just be she had no grandmother. She's out. She took these people out to the Lost Village, but like they don't even exist or something.
Awesome.
So the whole time I was thinking like,
oh, that's good.
I was thinking that maybe none of this was even real. I thought that was a possibility from the get-go too.
You're getting into it. Yeah, I'm getting you there.
Oh, I do want to say something that's like not really about the story. It's kind of, I guess it's about the writing, but it was actually my favorite thing throughout the whole book. Probably partly because it's in like present tense, which I don't know if I read a book yet that's like in actual present tense. The book felt it was so descriptive. I don't know, just
so
I felt like I was there in the action.
And what a beautiful and like perfect scenery for this.
So great.
And
I felt
creepy.
like I was there. I could like feel
imagine?
the crisp air, like the feeling of being camping.
I was like, am I going to Sweden?
It sounded
I'm
so
about
beautiful.
To go to Sweden. So I feel like if this is made into a movie, beautiful. Just I can already see it. And you're right, you can like visualize exactly what.
When you hear that the creepy chanting from the church in the movie, that's going to be there's so many cool creepy things. Like I saw some people giving this book like 3 and they're like, I'm like, I thought it was super creepy. She mixed so many really awesome creepy elements, like bad pastor, creepy church people, like cultish,
and she really went
fanaticism.
There with the pastor.
Yeah.
Oh, and she said she wanted to talk about how isolation, fear, and what the power of groupthink does. Page 80, I put on my notes, so I don't know what exactly it said, but something about heaven on earth. I immediately was like, oh my gosh, he's going to make this into a cult. Which I like when it comes to like real life cults, like Jonestown stuff, like I stay away from that because it makes me so sad. Like it's just such a sad, but when reading about it was so good.
That's another thing. I did not feel for Alice. Like I didn't, and she went through something so heartbreaking. But Camilla wrote Elsa's heartbreak of slowly losing. Hold on, my stomach just growled right in the mic. Her slowly losing her daughter. That was amazing. Like that.
And you know what?
She did so good with that. Like, I felt for Elsa.
Okay. Sorry.
No, I was done. I was done. I was just going to keep saying, I love Elsa. Like, I was just going to keep going.
Brigitte, who was, we didn't say what she was. I think maybe she left that kind of, maybe not up to interpretation, but it seemed like she was on the spectrum or, something.
Yeah, she was like nonverbal. She couldn't communicate how she felt or what she was thinking. It was to the point where she would hurt herself because she could not like collect her thoughts or like where she was sometimes. Even Elsa, who was like her most trusted person, like even if she like when she touched her, she just lashed out. And when she nursed the baby.
So, and just to know like she was there. Like she was there. She might not be able to communicate like we can, but she was there, and just to know what happened to her, and she couldn't tell anybody. She didn't know. So incredibly heartbreaking. And I kept thinking, like, please, Elsa, because she's, there's only out of 900 residents, it's Elsa and literally 2 other women, which is I love reading a story where the author is like, you know what? If someone can do it, women can.
Yeah.
If someone's going to get it done. And I'm just like, please, Elsa, please find a way to save Brigitte. Please find a way to save the baby.
Elsa's story was so good. Now that we're even talking about it.
I know.
And the betrayal. Elsa was like the backbone of the community, essentially.
And her husband, even her husband.
The betrayal of 900 people turning against her, who loved her, who she worked her whole life for.
I mean, we can say, or I can say firsthand, like, what religion, what someone who wields it wrong can do, because it's so scary. They don't want to be damned. I mean, who wants to be damned? And if this is what they have to do, and they just turn everyone on Elsa, not they, the pastor is so, I mean, that's a classic, sociopath. Like, he just smiles and...
Yeah, he even said at the end, like, I can't leave. Like, these people see me as God now. And it is, like, if you make people scared enough, and then they look and they're like, oh, these people next to me are scared, and these people are scared. Exactly. All of a sudden, 900 people are scared, and they're like, this guy is the savior.
You have no source. This was before the internet, before they had to write letters. I mean, there was no one to tell them, hey, this is bad. I'm reading it, I'm like, Elsa, just leave your daughter behind, I'm like, wait. And I literally had to stop and be like, no, like, she's a mom. I'd be like, Elsa, like, I'm dying here because I'm not leaving my daughter. And if you read it and you're, like, not a parent, like, you might be like, Elsa, you dumb. Just leave her. She's stupid. Like, your daughter is really And I'm like,
I was
no.
so mad at Ina. I was
I
like,
know.
you evil little girl. And I was like, wait a minute, wasn't she like 16? I'm like, oh yeah, you were groomed by a predator.
That's I
made
understand.
a predator's right-hand man. Oh, now I see, like, you're not, like, you're the child in the situation. And that's why it was so heartbreaking for Elsa, because she's like, oh, my child is gone. My child has been stolen from me by this man, and, like, there's nothing she could.
And it was so sad because she lived somehow in very, very little food. She survived.
Yeah. Just by rummaging through other people's houses.
And to see how she went at the end, to see how it all, like, went down, she died. It was just like, oh, you know, just sad all around. So your ending was that she would just, you haven't said your ending at all?
No.
Oh, shoot.
My dream ending is they got down into the mines and the people had been living down there the entire time, like even more isolated from society. How would they have been getting food? I don't know. But I thought it was going to be really creepy. This is going to be messed up, but I thought the book was going to go there. Like, the community's larger. They've all had to have been, like, procreating with each other, and it's just gotten even more religiously messed up down there. And then the police were going to get there at the same time they discovered the community, so then the documentary or, like, whatever, the book would be ending on, like, now these, like, 1,000 people are trying to, like, return back to normalcy after they've been living in a mine for, like, 50 years.
50 years, yeah.
But whatever.
I mean, sis, don't sleep on that. Go ahead and write the sequel.
I know. I know Twilight, or no?
Oh, fan fiction.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. 50 Shades of Grey was Twilight fan fiction at first. And you know what? It became a book. So maybe I'll do
fan fiction.
the Lost Village fan fiction, but it'll become
No.
a book.
I have it. Are you ready? The Mine Village.
Minecraft.
You yell a lot of 13-year-olds reading that book, unfortunately.
And a lot of 1 stars because they're like, this isn't what I thought it would be about. Loved it. I really loved it. Seriously. I'm serious. If it was for the characters, it would have been a 5-star. One last thought. A lot of books like to almost mirror a classic, put their own spin on it. When everybody disappeared, it was just like the beginning of Salem's Lot. It began exactly like Salem's Lot began. But instead of a guy writing a book about it, she was writing a documentary. So I was like, is this going to low-key be a vampire book? Because then I was like, no, because if they were all there but they were still vampires, like the people in the campsite would have started getting preyed upon, and that didn't happen. Okay, so I had to lose my vampire theory really fast.
You really got to write a book, because I'm reading both of these at this point. You were saying something that reminded me. Oh, how one of my favorite true life stories is the Roanoke.
You talked about that when you talked about this book, and I don't know what that is.
Okay, so I don't know exactly, as much as I have watched every video on it on YouTube, and I still couldn't tell you exactly, but basically, essentially what happened is settlers came over from England, settled down in a little village somewhere.
New England or something?
New England, yeah, and what is often not talked about is that a lot of people like left to go back to England to get supplies. Well, something happened. They couldn't come back for years to this little village, this town. And when they came back years later, this poor village had nothing. Everyone was gone. The entire village was just empty. And the only thing they found on a tree, carved in a tree, were the words Roanoke. That's it. I think the best theory that I've seen is that they either joined an Indian group or like a tribe, or they were murdered by possibly Indians. Because I know people said that there were Indians seen that were like had the characteristics of like white people, you know, like maybe different hair color and eye colors. So maybe they just kind of like joined the tribe because they're like, hey, we don't got food. We don't know what to do. Can you help us out? You know,
can we join, please?
That's the happy ending, that they did join, and the bad ending would be like the Indians murdered them. But honestly,
how can you blame them?
I mean, all right, but I think that wraps up everything. Our next book talk will be on Finlay, Donovan is Killing It. So we're super, super excited. I was telling Shelby that publishing company Minotaur, they put out like a sampler of like spring sampler of new books coming out under their publication, and randomly, I didn't even realize, but The Lost Village and Finlay, Donovan is Killing It are part of their like big four coming out.
Great choices, Minotaur.
Great choices. Yeah, so I'm super excited. I already finished it, so I'm ready to talk about it. Okay, guys, but as always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share if you care. And until our next video, we will talk to you next time. Bye.